Hi, What the Health Tech listeners. I'm your host this week, Mark Fewster. This is the podcast where we tackle some of the trending topics, ideas and best practice in health and social care. This week we've got Ellie Jordan on the podcast. Ellie's a product owner at Radar Healthcare and she basically manages the community forum projects we'll be talking about. It's a really exciting new venture, but we'll wait for the interview before Ellie can tell us more about it. In her spare time, Ellie's an avid theatre fan, is a musical director at her local amateur dramatic society, as well as sourcing music, writing lyrics and running rehearsals. On top of this, she's a keen equestrian. And then we've got a question here. What's your favourite musical, Ellie?
I don't really have a favourite musical. I was trying to think of a favourite, one to pick out, but I don't really have one. But one of the musicals I've seen the most is probably Billy Elliot, which is maybe not as well known as some of the others, but it's an amazing, really good musical if anyone gets to go see that.
Yeah, I'm not a massive musical fan, as you can probably imagine, but I went to see The Lion King with my girlfriend down in London. It was unbelievable. Yeah,
The Lion King's amazing as well. And
yeah, really cool, wasn't it?
Yeah, really good. But any musical, anything theatre related, I'm always up for going to see. So yeah. Great.
So community forums. So I guess the first question is why? Why have we gone off and started to build a community forum?
Well, actually, Mark, it was your idea originally, wasn't it? So I don't know if actually you want to...
Thanks for that.
answer that one, really.
So I think from my view of why we were doing it originally is it's probably slightly different to yours, so I'll let you answer the actual question still.
Yeah.
But if you think of what we do and almost the USP at Radar of that customization, and you can build out your own events, you can build out your own workflows, you can build your own audits now, you can build your own dashboards. When we're onboarding customers and working with customers, they've all kind of got the same problems they're fixing. They fix them in a slightly different way, but they've got very similar processes. They work in a very similar environment, healthcare. So in most cases, there are commonalities across it. Historically, other than a person being the conduit for ideas, it's been really difficult for us to kind of share what other customers are doing. So for me, it was about, actually, if we're talking about Radar being customized, self-build, and that cycle of learning and best practice, how do you take what we're doing in each individual customer and then put it in a space where everyone's got access to it? So, if they want to share, to be fair. So the community for me is about that. It's actually about kind of saying, look, at the moment, you've almost got to come through us to learn what other customers are doing and learn what other best practices and share those learnings and understand what went well and what doesn't work. And so the community that was it for me. It's almost, how do we get the place where we can start to share this content and customers can start helping other customers and start building this, as the word says, community where they're sharing things.
Yeah, 100%. And I mean, before this role, I was customer facing. And one of the things that customers always are asking are, what are other customers doing? Can you put me in touch with somebody else who's doing this or somebody else in this sector? And the community is going to give people a chance to kind of get in touch with each other without us kind of needing to be the messenger, so to speak. So 100% agree. I think it's going to be great.
So obviously, we had the idea.
Yep.
How does the idea turn into the reality?
So first things first was kind of capturing the requirements from the business. Why are the business doing it? What do we want to achieve from it? Some of the functionality that's going to be in the community, which we'll talk about in a little bit, some of that kind of crosses over to some of the functionality we do already have in other platforms. So why are we moving it? So we looked at different providers, different platforms out there. There's an awful lot of platforms and different communities there. So we looked at some of the best on the market right the way through. Marrying up our requirements with what we can get from the product, demos, all of that sort of thing. Once we've chosen it, it then comes down to kind of planning and implementing. So we've worked closely with different people, different teams. So Rob Place, who manages training, so he'll be sorting the knowledge base side of things and all the user guides. Marketing, obviously, for the branding and making sure it feels as close to our website as possible. So we don't want it to be completely foreign when people are accessing it. It needs to feel like Radar. So all of that, it's all been about the teams working together to do that. At the moment, we're transferring the content. So for those of our customers, partners who have been on our existing forum where we post product updates and you can suggest ideas, We're transferring all of that content over to the new community where we'll have much more functionality. It'll be much more user-friendly and all of that. So yeah, that's kind of the next step at the moment. Once all the content's there, we're then going to run with a beta. So we'll have a few customers trialling it. We'll get some feedback, what works, what doesn't work. You know, is the layout right? Do we need to promote different stuff? Can people find what they need? And from there, we'll then do the main launch and push it out to all our customers.
So what is in the community then? What are all the different things that people will be able to expect to be able to access, and almost what's the value of each of those? So I know you mentioned the beta. We're concentrating on not chucking the kitchen sink at it to begin with. To be fair, we want to kind of say, well, look, let's start. To be fair, not start small, because actually it's got some really cool stuff in it to begin with, but actually start with almost like that, the basics, back to products, like minimum viable products for the community, and then add the things in. But what are those things that people can almost expect from, beta or go live?
So there's 4 main areas of the community, as I see it. So there's the community itself. So when you go onto the community, there's a section called community, and that's the forum area. So that's where people can ask questions of us and ask questions of each other. And we really want to encourage our partners to answer each other. So yes, we'll be monitoring and we'll be answering questions as well, but really we want to be encouraging our users to answer each other and talk to each other. So you'll be able to ask questions of each other, ask questions of Radar, share best practice, as you talk about, sharing content. If you've created a really good audit, share it out and let other people access it. So that's kind of the community area, which is the forum place.
On that bit though, so if you are, what we'd like to see, well, you tell me, what would we like in terms of those individuals then, and those people that are answering questions almost on our behalf, I guess? What do we want to get out of that? So what are we trying to, almost a little bit selfishly from Radar's point of view, what are we wanting to see happen?
I think there's an awful lot of good practice out there, and there's also people using the system in ways that we don't necessarily. We would say this is how we think you should be doing it, but actually once you're using it day to day, I've been out to customers and seen them using things in completely different ways to we would expect, and it works really, really well. So it's about sharing what works and what doesn't work, and allowing people to share that themselves without us always saying, well, this is what we think you should be doing. You're the ones using it day to day. You're the ones with the experience of putting it into practice. Drawing all of that expertise and knowledge out is really valuable.
I guess it's like an extension of our support team in a sense as well, isn't it? So obviously we're moderating the answers, so it's not like anyone can, this is what you do, and it's like, well, no, that's not really what happens.
Absolutely.
So we retain control of that, but actually you're almost extending this out, so there's lots of other people who are able to feed back in and go, well, actually, here, like you say, here's best practice, and well, actually, we might not have known that.
100%.
Here's something that works really well. Right, okay, that's a learn for us, and then we get to share it in the organisation as well. So I think, it's all about that cycle.
I remember going out to a customer and seeing how they were using documents, and to me, documents is a place just to store and manage documents or policies or something, and they were using it in a really innovative way to manage all of their kind of insurance renewals and kind of assets and all of that sort of thing. It was a really interesting way to see, and I would never have thought of doing things that way, and that's an example of sharing things in a different way and doing things in a different way. And one of the things that you'll be able to do in the community, kind of the forum area, is mark an answer as a best answer as well. So just because people are answering questions doesn't necessarily mean that that's the best answer. So when you post a question, you'll be able to say, actually, I think this is the best answer. But us as moderators will also be able to say, this is the best answer. This is really good. And all of that interactivity will build up against the kind of the user record. So users will get points and be able to award badges and all of that good stuff that's going to kind of just make things a little bit more, there's kind of the gamification side of it. So you'll have your leaderboards, you'll see who's most active, who's answering all these questions. And also it gives people the reassurance, I guess, that the people that are answering their question can see that they've answered loads of questions. They've got this badge to say that they do know what they're talking about. So I can be assured that actually
like a
that's
trusted,
good advice.
Almost they're like an extension of Radar, really. They're at the point where they are trusted. They have been answering things and not necessarily that they work for us, but so almost to a certain degree they are doing, because they're answering questions on our behalf.
They know what they're talking about. They've had Radar healthcare for a while, and they know what they're doing.
And we've got a lot of customers like that, haven't we? If you think of all the knowledge that's out there, all these individuals who we speak to all the time, you know, when we're running beta sessions, we've always got those kind of go-to people, haven't we?
100%.
I think it'd be really interesting to see what they're like when they kind of, you know, hopefully they all engage with it and they all pop up on the community.
And they're the sort of people we'll be bringing into the beta as well. So they're the sort of people that will be feeding back on actually what works, what doesn't work, what are we missing, what would you like to see from it that we've not drawn in.
So beta's on the community as well, isn't it? How's that going? Yeah.
So as part of the community, we've got 3 areas, don't let me forget, that I've not covered yet. But, on part of the forum part where people are talking, we can create different groups. So most of the content is available for anyone. You have to be logged in, so it's not just Joe Blogs off the street. It has to be our partners, people who are logged into the community that access the content. But we also have kind of private content there. So when we do our product betas, and what by product betas I mean like the enhanced audit work that we're doing, we're working on the risk register and all of the new products that we come across. We'll be creating beta groups within the community. So that's a place for our beta customers for the different product areas to talk and share ideas with each other, with us, ask questions and help us develop and gather the requirements and kind of fine-tune what we're doing, share updates, all of that stuff. But it'll be private, so the rest of the customer base won't see all of that development.
I mean, they can ask to join. They can kind of say, I want to be involved in it. And
100%. But it's kind of that private forum place for us to do that, rather than having emails bouncing back and forth, or maybe a spreadsheet where you're trying to capture all this stuff.
Or even the workshops, I'd argue. So I mean, I love a good workshop, but I know you do as well, because you've seen people face to face. But, you know, that quick, right, we're just going to put a quick poll up. What should we call this button? What colour should this be? Where should this be on the screen?
Definitely.
And instead of it being, like you say, right, we have to send an email out to everyone or phone them up or get everybody on a Teams call, you just do a quick poll. You know, what do we want this to look like?
Because even just in my inbox now, I know 100% I've got 3 or 4 emails about the risk register. If it was on the forum, other people could become contributing to the answers to those questions without waiting for me to get to my inbox. So it just keeps it all much more transparent and open, and hopefully it'll move things forward quicker and easier.
I mean, I think we'll end up having a better product for it. I think it's as simple as that. We will get hopefully responses faster and a better quality, I guess, as well, because we're, you know, back to those. We do typically kind of have people who want to be part of the betas because it's you know, they're happy to travel and they're happy to spend the time. Some people don't necessarily have that capability, but actually would want to feed into it, and I think that'll give them those voices that we maybe don't hear a bit more of an input on what's happening with the products. Yeah,
definitely. And one of the other things that we can do in these hidden groups is so we can have events within the forum. So we can so when we do any sort of event, whether it's us attending an event like the Care Show or something that's kind of an outside event, or whether it's us hosting webinars, or whether it's us doing these beta workshops, all of those can be accessed and signed up to within the community forum, and we'll be able to have the private ones, should I say, for these beta groups as well. So all of that is managed within the groups and within the wider forum.
And what other groups do you see then outside of the betas? What do you think? What would you imagine people are going to end up wanting to create in there? Because at the moment we want part of the beta to go, what do you want these groups to be? Have you got any idea about what they might be?
I think there's a difference between groups and categories within the forum. So the groups is around pulling people together and maybe having that kind of the private aspect of the content, so hiding the content behind this group of people. There's also the categories, and the categories allow us to do what it says, so categorise content. So we might have a care or an NHS category where people can access content, or it might be that actually that works better as a group so that you're only signing up for the content that you want. So maybe we'll have a care group or an NHS group or whatever the group might be. Maybe it's PSURF or LFPSC.
I mean, that's what I think, I can imagine an LFPSC group and a PSURF group. I think I'd like to not create that care and just an opinion. No. But almost that kind of care and NHS thing. I think there'd be a lot of value. You know, if you think of all the kind of private hospitals and things like that we work with, and all the, you know, big care organisations, and then obviously the NHS, actually bringing them together a little bit would be useful, because they can learn a lot from each other. I
think that's why categories in my head might work better for that kind of content rather than groups, because groups are, by their very nature, you're in your own little group. But this is what the beta's for. So this is about working out okay, what works? What do we
don't know the answer.
No. So I don't know. Other than the beta groups where we have a very distinct group of people and specific content we want to share just to that group of people. I think other than that, I'm open to seeing what comes from the beta and seeing what the community want. I think.
And what's the type of stuff that we'll be pushing out? So are we kind of, the worst thing I guess for our community is after a week it's, no one's engaged, like no one's posted on this, and how are we going to cope with that? How are we managing that?
So there's a balance between that. So you want to have some activity, so you're logging on and there's always something fresh to read.
Yeah.
But there's also, you don't want to have loads of stuff, because if you go on something and there's 50 posts, you're never going to read them either. So it's about having that balance of maybe 2 or 3 a week, kind of sharing it between different kind of topics. So different people will be posting within the business. So within Radar Healthcare, we might have something from the product team, we might have something from customer success, we might have something from maybe marketing, maybe a podcast might be linked on there. So
put this
one on, yeah. So it would be about kind of having that regular drip feed, and we can the community in the background, it allows us to schedule content. So we don't have to constantly be on it creating the content. We can create a whole load of content and then schedule when it's gonna drop. But that actually leads into some of the other areas that around the community, around some of the other content that we'll have on there. So we've talked so far just about, I guess, the actual community, one of the big things, the forum, chatting, sharing best practice, getting to know each other. But some of the other things that we'll be able to do on there is ideation. So what I mean by ideation is suggesting development ideas for the product. We do currently do this on our one of our platforms that we use at the moment, but it is quite restrictive.
It's quite difficult to. It takes us quite a bit of time to go through it, shall we say?
There's no analytics.
There's not.
So we can't run reports from it. We can't export any of these ideas, and it doesn't link through anywhere. So it's very much. I feel like it's very much a one-way thing. Somebody suggests an idea, it comes to us. People can upvote it at the minute, and that's fine. But it doesn't feel like it has much more than that. We read them all, and we go through them all, and we mark them, whether we're planned and all that.
I'd argue we do them as well. So I think I'm going to make up the stats, so apologies to Hayley if this isn't 29%, the right number. 29%, and there's like another 13% planned. So we're actually pretty good at doing... and listening to feedback and doing what customers ask for.
But if you looked at our ideation at the moment, you have no idea of that.
No, there's no way of surfacing that to people. And almost no way of... Yeah, we tend to... It tends to be a narrow set of voices as well, doesn't it? So we tend to get like a certain people who engage with it. And actually, I'd argue probably a lot of people don't even know it's the current one's there.
I think people don't know it's there. And because there's not that easy visibility of how many of these... ideas we've actually taken on board. Yeah. I think some people historically have gone, well, I'm suggesting these ideas and I don't know what you're doing with it. Yeah. So what the new community will allow us to do is we've got ideation. So we'll be transferring all of those ideas that are on the existing one over to the new community. So none of that is lost. Yeah. But what it will also give us is front end kind of visibility of these are the number of things that are planned. These are the number of things that have been delivered, and it'll give much easier way for people to see that. It'll automatically sort it with the most popular at the top for people when they're viewing things, so they can easily find things as well. Yeah. It'll also allow us to tag ideas with product areas. So if you've got a particular interest in audit, you could just filter on audit, and then you can see all the product ideas that have been submitted to do with audit.
Might feed into the beta as well. So and the bits are like you get a nice shiny badge if you come in things that we're going to implement. That lots of ideas that we like. You're going to get we're going to reward you in a virtual sense with a badge. Yeah, I think that bit about. So it might not be your idea that gets done. No. Which I know, obviously, you can, as a put customer hat on of, well, I've put this idea in and no one's looked at it over. So we do look at everything. We do, yeah. But it's really difficult to evidence that we look at everything. Yeah. And then, again, it might not be your idea that gets done, but the ideas are getting done and you'll be able to see that we are picking things up and developing them and putting them into the product. And then hopefully we're better at articulating back to the kind of, the community and the user groups, why we've chosen to maybe not do something, or even just we need to change language, which we call things like deferring. We're going to defer a decision on this, but for now we're going to call that something
open.
Yeah, so it's slightly less confusing, I guess, to people.
I think the language open as well means, we're open to this idea, we're open to suggestions. Please do comment and vote it. And I think as well, combining the ideation aspect with all of the other stuff that's going on, hopefully we'll get more engagement on the ideation as well. So we've got these really key people that are currently really engaged and currently suggesting loads of ideas, which is fabulous. And we want that from everybody. You know, we want our customer base coming through and suggesting 100%. Ideas, no matter where you're from. So we've got the main community forum, we've got ideation, we've also got product updates, so all our release notes will go on there. You can subscribe to your release notes. Again, you can filter on product areas, so if you're particularly interested in what they're doing on the risk register, filter on risk register, you can see all the release notes that are relevant to that. All our product updates. We've also got the roadmap.
No more emails from me.
No more emails. No more manually doing emails. It'll be subscription. You can subscribe to your release notes and get them that way. And also our product roadmap is on there as well.
I mean, I think that's quite a big one as well. So we only tend to talk about that when at certain points. So we might talk about it in the sales process. We might talk about it again in onboarding. And then we might talk about it occasionally if something specifically comes up that a customer asks for. It's not anywhere for people to be able to access really easily, is it? So that that in itself, you've got, here's what the roadmap looks like. If you don't like it, if you think you've got other ideas, then here's the ideation forum.
Absolutely,
You drive what that's telling us to do. We want to listen to you, and that's what's shaping what the roadmap's going to do.
And hopefully the ideation forum as well will link in with the roadmap, so you'll be able to see it. We're saying we're working on the register.
Planned,
These are all the risk register stuff we're doing, and you can see it then pulling in and coming into shape, which I think is fabulous. And then the fourth area is knowledge base. So again, we have the knowledge base on our current platform. That's going to move over into the community. So everything's going to be in the one place. Again, the knowledge base is there's more analytics behind it. So, front end users might not necessarily see the difference. But for us, it'll give us much more reporting behind the scenes. So what articles are people reading, what are people finding useful or not useful, and all of that stuff. We can see much more. We've got much more visibility of activity. And again, it links through. We can link it all together because it's all in one place. It'll all link together.
And we're looking at the content as part of that as well, aren't we? So we're kind of reviewing what we've got in terms of the current help content, and hopefully, if we need to tweak it or improve it.
Yeah, so it's as you can probably imagine, it's quite a decent job transferring
a lot of
all of the ideas from the forum and all of the knowledge base articles through. So we're transferring all of that content over, but it is a really valuable step to review it all and make sure it's all up to date, which we do anyway, but it just makes sense. Let's do it all at the same time.
Yeah. I think I'm looking forward to the bit and the builder license for the analytics, because we've again, it's historically just been me, if I'm probably being honest, and kind of whoever's got the builder license for a customer, and that place for them to be able to share, because it's so customizable. Blocks, which is like this bit where you can kind of plug in HTML and things like that, and plug in wherever you want to kind of create your own designs. We've not really shown customers too much of that. And now it gives us an opportunity to be able to just put little snippets on to go, well, actually, here's how you colour in a widget. Here's how you do some designs. Here's how you do a different calculation.
There's an awful lot of best practice around how to build a dashboard, what works. Not always just how to actually physically build it, but also the design, what works well, what drives the eyes, it's all very well having all of this data on there, but what's the point in it? What do you want to achieve from showing people this? I think it's a really good example of how customers can share what they've been doing. If somebody's created a really good dashboard, share it, and that's a place as well where people can be like, this is an example of what we're doing. We found it works really well. We bring it up in the board meetings or whatever, and we've shared it. It's an exec dashboard that we've got. So all of that good stuff, I think.
Yeah, I mean, so we now look at what the customers are doing in terms of the dashboards with the sessions we're running with them, and there's probably not a single call where we don't walk away from it going, well, actually, you've come up with something better than we've done, so we're going to take that and put it into our core dashboards. And that, I think that it's going to drive the product. Yeah. And it's really going to help us kind of shift it to being really, if we're talking about what Radar's doing in terms of that cycle of, constantly learning and changing and growing, and the community, for me, it's the same thing. It's just kind of extending it a little bit. So I see it as a full extension of the product.
100%. And again, it comes back to, we think we know what you need.
Yeah.
But you know what you need more than we do.
And we can't speak to all of you. So here's a mechanism now for you to be able to come back to us. Yeah,
tell each other what works, what doesn't work, and it's just a place for that conversation to happen.
So in terms of the beta, and if customers are interested, and I guess also once live, how do people end up signing up for this? How do you get access to it?
So for existing customers, the communication will come through your customer success manager or your project manager, depending on where you're at in the process. So the communication will be sending out communication to everybody. You will have to self-register for the forum, so it's really easy. It's just a login button and then create an account. It's really straightforward. Once you are registered, we can then assign you to the different relevant groups, or you can request to join a group if you're part of a beta, but we'll probably put you into like the Risk Register beta group if you're part of that. For example, for brand new customers, it'll all be done as part of the onboarding process. So at the moment, people have to sign up for Freshdesk, which is our ticketing system for your development tickets and all for your support tickets. So it'll be exactly the same process as part of your onboarding. This is where you need to sign up. That's something I didn't speak about as well, actually. There'll be loads of help on onboarding in there as well. So best practice and ideas and all of that sort of content will be available in the forum as well once we're up and running and it's fully populated. So there'll be something for everybody right the way through the cycle. But yeah.
Anything we've not talked about? Anything we missed? I mean, there is a lot to it, to be fair.
There is a lot to it. I think one of the things that will be interesting is around the best way to lay the content out that's the easiest way for people to find what they want. Yeah. And I think I'm fully envisaging that needing tweaking. Once we've got people on there and they're saying, no, how do I find this or how do I find that? Or we can see where people are going. So we can see if there's a particular area that we thought would be really interesting, but nobody's finding it, then we can tweak all of that. So I think that's going to be something we'll need to look at. But
we run those in the same way as we do the normal beta sessions. So almost, here's a set of tasks that we want you to achieve on the forum. We're going to literally video you trying to do it. We're not going to give you, I know it feels a bit mean sometimes. It's like, we're not going to give you any help. It's like, right,
do this.
Do a post. No, that's not, we're not finding a way, or find some knowledge, right, and they're lost.
Yeah, you've got an idea. What do you do?
Yeah, exactly. And then, that stuff is always gold.
Well, we're going to run a webinar. So we're going to run a webinar to kind of introduce the forum. And then, we'll be doing exactly that with the beta customers. So we'll ask people to contribute and feedback to us.
Great. So I guess, a question that nobody products likes to hear. When?
I know, I feel like I've been saying really, really soon for the beta, for weeks, but we are literally ready to send the beta emails out. So the last step was getting the terms of use agreed. That's all been done. It's all been published. So I have literally in my drafts at the moment an email kind of just that I'm wording to send out to the beta people. We'll be asking them just to agree to kind of various terms if they're part of different groups.
Usual beta,
all that stuff. So that'll be going in the next few days. Friday's probably not the best day to send an email. Today's a Friday.
Probably New Year, we're thinking, aren't we?
The main launch itself will be New Year. So January, New Year, new start. It very much is dependent on us making sure that all the knowledge-based content and the ideation is transferred. There's a lot of content to transfer. We can't launch it without all of that in there. But New Year will be the launch of the forum for everybody.
Brilliant, amazing. Well, anything else? Do you think we missed anything? I think we pretty much covered it all, to be fair. I can't think of anything.
I think we've covered it.
Just check the list of questions. I think that's most of it. That was really interesting, Ellie. I'm really excited about this. I think, as I say, it's extending the product into, it gives us all sorts, which we've kind of just been talking about. So, thank you very much. Thanks for your time.
No, thank you.
Thank you for joining us this week, and thanks to everybody for listening. Join us next week for another new episode. Don't forget to rate and subscribe. And if you've got any questions for us or our guests, please email whatthehealthtech@radarhealthcare.com.